for Jack Smith, who had hoped to leapfrog the Court of Appeals and go straight to the Supreme Court. Instead, he will have to first litigate this matter in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. Now, in the meantime, since he filed this request with the Supreme Court, the D.C. Circuit has said they would hear the question on an expedited basis. They have set oral argument in the case for January 9th. If they decide fairly quickly, then we could be back at the Supreme Court maybe within a month or so, if the court acts quickly. Or it could be that they take their time and we don't decide the case until June, in which case the trial will be delayed by that amount. So I think the March 4th trial date, either way you slice it, is in some trouble now. That doesn't mean it can't be tried before the election, but I think we're looking more at a summer trial instead of a spring trial.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about...
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you have a great and wonderful day. And it seems that the SCOTUS did a credible move. They have moved to reject Jack Smith's request. And it's quite hilarious because now the media is honestly panicking and losing their minds over this. We're going to go over it a little bit because they can't really deal with this. They're coping. They're trying to process on why this is going on and why this could potentially even go past towards even, I would say, the summer. At least that's what they're saying, and maybe even past the actual election, which would not help them at all because it would just show that, they can't really do anything against Donald Trump. It seems like we're still taking W's, it's just taking time. Now we have this here. We have SCOTUS rejects Jack Smith's request to hear Trump's immunity claim immediately. The Supreme Court of the United States has rejected Special Counsel Jack Smith's request to expedite the appeal regarding former President Donald Trump's claim of immunity he has asserted as a defense to the criminal charges against him related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. At the beginning of the month, Judge Tanya Chutkan denied 2 motions to dismiss from Trump's team based on First Amendment and presidential immunity claims. Trump appealed the ruling, and Smith took the unusual step of filing a request directly to the Supreme Court, asking them to immediately rule on the issue, arguing that the case involves an issue of exceptional national importance. Normally, the appeal would go first to the D.C. Circuit of Court of Appeals, and then whichever side lost at that level would have the option to appeal to the Supreme Court. As many legal observers have noted, the immunity issue is fundamental to the question of Trump's criminal liability and must be settled before the case can proceed to trial. Smith's effort to skip the intermediate appellate level was viewed as a strategic move to keep the trial on schedule, and the Supreme Court's rejection benefits Trump, who has sought to delay his various criminal prosecutions and civil trials as the 2024 election looms closer. Earlier this month, the nation's highest court agreed to consider Trump's request. Friday, rulings rejected the request and was issued as a non-sentence denial without further explanation or dissents. The petition for a wit's category before judgment is denied. So yeah, it seems the Supreme Court is really on the fence of just going really putting a wrench in Jack Smith's plans and really trying to help Trump. Now, I don't know how much this would be a help to Trump or not. I am not a lawyer. I am not very high in on this, but I do know one thing, that it does help Trump in the fact that it's being delayed considerably, to the fact that they can't prosecute him quite as early as they expected or wanted to, and this is the one thing that benefits Trump. However, I don't know if this will benefit Trump in the long term. I don't know how the trial is going to go or what have you, because we obviously know this is insanely corrupt. But we do know that the media is not having a good time about it, and Trump is probably laughing in their faces right now over this victory. And we're going to go over the thing of what media is trying here, what the media is really laughing at this point in time. We're going to go and up this quality a bit because it's pretty pixelated, it's pretty terrible, it's what we don't like. And we're going to go over this.
Joan has rejected Jack Smith's request for justices to hear the Trump immunity dispute. Take us through this.
Yeah, Brianna, we just got a 1-sentence order without any recorded vote or explanation. They have denied Jack Smith's request for immediate consideration of the claim that Donald Trump should be immune from criminal prosecution for interfering with the 2020 election, trying to disenfranchise millions of voters. The special counsel Jack Smith had laid out a case for why it was compelling for the Supreme Court to decide this sooner rather than later. And just a second ago, the Supreme Court denied it, again, with no recorded vote or explanation. It means that this case now stays in a lower appellate court. It could take now months before it gets back to the Supreme Court. It means that the trial of Donald Trump that was supposed to start March 4th certainly will not start on March 4th.
That is.
See, the problem that I have with this is that they didn't just franchise anything or lie to the public people or what have you. This is just something that we all know is a political attack. Because what we're seeing here is that what these people don't seem to realize, if the same things happen to Joe Biden and what have you, they would going absolutely fit. They were saying that there's an election denial, all this stuff, and what have you, because of the mere fact that it happened to Joe Biden and not and all that good stuff, right? And it's happening to Trump. They're removing him from the ballot of Colorado. They're doing all this type of stuff, and this is half of the issues that I have. Now, as I said before with the video with the Vivek Ramaswamy and DeSantis, it just goes to show on whose side here. I don't think Trump has a lot of allies. I don't think the American people have a lot of allies. I don't believe the Republicans are on the side of the American people, and I don't think that and I definitely know that the Democrats are not on the side of the American people. So we only have a few or select choices to choose from, and we're trying to choose what's best. And I find it hilarious that they're trying to just franchise stuff when you the people are you. Democrats, you authoritarians, are doing exactly what you're claiming Trump is doing, honestly.
It's huge.
Yeah, so Joan, what we're talking about here is that this is now going to go through the normal appellate process, and it'll go to the Court of Appeals, and that process will play out, and then maybe it might go to the Supreme Court after that. But for all intents and purposes, this is a logjam, a legal logjam, I suppose, in the way of that March start date, as you were saying.
That's absolutely true. And Jack Smith, on behalf of the federal government, had said, Supreme Court, you're going to have to resolve this sooner rather than later. Please come in now to do this quickly. And the court has said no. As I said, no explanation. Just, obviously the implication is that Jack Smith, the federal government, is going to have to go through the usual hoops of the lower court. Now, that is what is standard procedure, but what the special counsel had tried to argue was that this case was so compelling, so important to have a former president held accountable for actions from the 2020 election. He did not invoke the 2024 election, but here we are right on the eve of that. And this trial of former President Donald Trump and all the related proceedings are just going to go right through to the summer, and who knows if it's just going to bump right up against the November election.
It's hilarious, right? It's hilarious because, oh, well, you didn't go through the proper proceedings. But even though that this is such a big, crazy case, regardless of the case, because I've been pretty sure there's been multiple cases, such as the Jeffrey Epstein case, which that one is severe, didn't go through the same legal hoops, I'm going to assume, that this case is going through, right? Like this, and you're making this a high regard. All the Supreme Court is saying is no, stop. You have to go through the proper procedures. And what you guys are wanting him to do, and what you want to do, is not to go through the proper procedures. You want to ignore the proper procedures, and you want to go through the quickest way possible to get to what you want. That's insanity. And the Supreme Court is just saying, no, you can't do that. Go through the proper procedures, do what you need to do, and this will work. Potentially, maybe, but that's not what they want to do. They want things to get done because they probably know there's no chance in hell that they're probably going to win. In a non-corruption court, I guess you could say. But again, the Supreme Court is really putting their giant dick down and saying, no, you gotta go for the proper procedures. And that's perfectly understandable.
Let's remind people, Joan, what's at the heart of this, which is this question of whether Donald Trump had presidential immunity in his actions surrounding the election.
Yeah, the issue is that, Jack Smith had charged him with four felony counts, for the interference with the 2020 election, everything up to, the January 6th insurrection at the Capitol. And what Donald Trump had said is that he should be immune from this kind of criminal prosecution because any actions taken were part of his official actions. And a lower court trial judge rejected that, said, essentially, no one is above the law, especially the president, the former president in this case. And that was the situation that Jack Smith tried to emphasize, is that no one should be above the law, especially a man who tried to, defy the Constitution and perpetuate his time in office.
What I find hilarious about all of this, too, honestly, is that there's to avoid the Constitution and all that stuff and all right, it's like, and I agree, no president should be above the law. No government official should be above the law. But the thing is that you guys don't have any proof or whatsoever of what Trump has done. First of all, that's not really there. You're just pointing out Anaheims. And by the way, there's a lot to say about what Joe Biden is doing about weaponizing the, which I still haven't covered yet, which I still want to do, about weaponizing the government against Elon Musk, which I haven't covered that yet, which I'll probably do a stream about that on Tuesday at some point, when I have a free time. I'll probably do 2 streams next week, because I want to explain on how that's going and all that stuff. So, Joe Biden has been using the government unconstitutionally and illegally to go after the predecessors he doesn't like. So what you guys are saying is exactly what Joe Biden is doing. He's going after the citizens of his own country and using the government against them. This has been full on display. And again, as I say, no president should be above the law. But also, the president should have his rights and the proper proceedings done, so that way everything is fair and equal. But we know this is a kangaroo court. We know that this is a corruption court. We know this is a political attack. So the only other way that you're trying to justify is like, oh well, let's just make it more unfair, more bias, and that's the problem. I would not have any of these problems if I knew that this was not a political attack on Trump. But the problem is that we know it's a political attack on Trump. That's just bar none 100% what it is. So until people realize that this is what the reality is, they're going to keep on lying and saying BS. That's just not true, and completely ignoring what Joe Biden has been doing to his own citizens. This is the crazy part. This is the craziness of what's going on with the liberal media. But they're coping. They're seething. They're angry because they're not getting what they want, and they have to go for the proper proceedings. They may go past the election. Well, too bad. If you're going to go play unfair, there's going to be some things going to come in hitting you. And I'm hoping everything turns around for America in 2024, because it's not looking good. Alright guys, that's it for the video. Like, subscribe, share, and just take care, my friends.
I'm disgusted by what I see in public. Even people closest to us can't be trusted, because it's algorithmic disease, the social media.